Viewer discretion is advised for this episode. We will be covering graphic content, including mass violence, detailed descriptions of the blast site, and the deaths of children. In part 1 of this 2-part series, we covered the upbringing and early life of Timothy McVeigh in the days leading up to and morning of April 19, 1995. In today's episode, we'll cover the events of that day, the immediate aftermath, and what happens to McVeigh and his co-conspirators. One truck, one man, 168 lives lost in an instant, millions forever impacted. I'm Ben.
I'm Logan.
And this is Tinfoil Talk. We're hot.
Okay.
We are live. We're in it. And I'm going to jump straight into this right here.
Okay.
So for reference to those listening, co-host, great friend Logan here, has informed me he has shaved his head. He's wearing a bucket hat, so I can't see. We're going to get the grand reveal now. Take that hat off. I need to see this. Holy fucking
I told you, did not believe me. I told you this was going to happen.
Whoa!
I told you.
You buzzed your head.
I buzzed my head. Told you it was going to happen. I don't know why you sound shocked.
Yeah, that's on me. Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? It's cool, man. Looks good on you.
Yeah.
You almost look Asian.
Asian?
A little bit.
What?
A little bit.
I don't mean to sound offended.
Was it just horrible to be Asian or something?
No.
Goodness.
We're going to have to cut that.
No, dude, that's good stuff. It's good stuff.
You know what's funny?
What?
I worked with a guy when I was in Murfreesboro who told me I looked a little Asian. I don't know what it is.
You have an Asian resemblance. Like it's in your face more than it is anywhere else.
There is a really strong native bloodline in my family. That's like my eyes aren't like traditionally like big round.
You have like small eye sockets.
Yeah.
I can see it. I almost see like a. It's hard to pinpoint, but yeah, I see it.
A mutt all over.
That's an interesting way to describe that. All right. So this beer.
Yep. So we have, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Elysian Space Dust IPA.
It's what it looks like. Elysian,
something like
Elysian,
that.
I'm
I've
not
heard
sure.
a lot of good things about this one.
I've never heard of it. I'm checking out the bottle here. This bold, mischievously drinkable IPA.
Yep.
Balances the hop sweetness of candied grapefruit, mango, and pine with a medium body and dry finish. Trust the dust. Wow.
Let's see.
Cool.
Enjoy
man.
responsibly. Elysian Brewing Company, Incorporated, Seattle, Washington, Fairfield, California, Fort Collins, Colorado, Cartersville, Georgia, and Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Heck yeah. Do we have an alcohol percentage? I don't see it.
8.2.
Is that right?
It is 8.2.
Whoa, Nelly. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Cool. I'm going to do a smeller. Ooh.
That smells really good.
That smells pretty good. Though, in the past, ones that smell like this end up being a letdown. So
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, my hopes are now a little bit lower, but they're still strong. You first. We've clinked. And he drinks. That tastes exactly like I thought it would.
It's a lot. It's a lot of flavor, but it handles it well. It's very smooth to drink.
It's not bad. This is a wonderful sipper.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
a great
hot
sipper.
day.
Yeah.
Crack one of these bad boys open.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I don't mind it. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say this is an 8.1.
Really?
Yeah, this is really good. Actually, it's 8.2%. This is an 8.2.
It's 8.2. I like that. I'm going to go 7.
7.
Okay. I like it.
Still not a bad score. What, this is going to become a common thing, but your beer review website, was this on there?
I didn't check.
Okay. That's all right.
If you can riff for a moment, I'll look it up.
I can riff. You want me to beatbox? You want me to rap?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, to get into while you're looking that up, to get into what we're going to get into today, it's going to be pretty nasty. It's going to be some nasty stuff. that discretion at the beginning was very real. If that type of thing makes you uncomfortable or you can't handle it, I suggest you maybe take some time. Don't listen just yet.
Yeah.
We love you, but this is pretty dark stuff.
Yeah.
All right, you look ready.
Elysian Space Dust IPA is a 91 on Beer Advocate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 91's highest I've seen.
That's up there.
Yeah.
You said Miller Lite was at 40, right?
It was Miller or Busch was a 49.
That's just a crime. Well, anyway, you've got a buzzed head, and we've got a lot to talk about, so...
Let's get into it, baby.
Let's get into it. At exactly 9:02 a.m. on April 19th, 1995, a Ryder-moving truck parked outside of the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City exploded. Inside the truck was nearly 5,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, soaked in nitromethane, or racing fuel, contained within 13 barrels. In that instant, the entire north face of the Murrah Federal Building was gone. The explosion was so powerful that it sent a pressure wave expanding at over 7,000 miles per hour directly into the 9-story building. Immediately, office workers and children inside the building are vaporized, thrown across rooms and buried underneath tons of concrete and steel support beams. The blast wave smashes 324 nearby buildings, some as far as 10 blocks away. Glass windows shatter, cars are lifted off the ground, parking meters are blown out of the concrete, and a nearby tree, which is now known as the survivor tree, is stripped bare of its bark.
Jesus, man.
Yeah. Even just, like, typing this out, like, it creates, which, watching the documentary, too, you see this.
Yeah.
And you see the front face of this building is missing, and you just see, like, into the building. I mean, you see it. There's body parts, there's blood splatter, there's pieces of clothing. Like, I think the only thing from this that hopefully makes people rest a little easier is, like, the people that did instantly die, like, they didn't feel it or see it coming.
I guess that's all you can hope for.
Yeah,
in this case.
Just hope for no, like, suffering.
God, I knew about, like, the gist of the Oklahoma City bombing. I knew there was an explosion.
Yeah.
I knew it was brutal. I didn't understand the scope to that degree.
Oh yeah, it was insane.
That's crazy.
Yep. Chaos erupts. There's screaming, sirens, smoke, fire, and a massive plume of dust and debris mushrooming upward that's visible for miles. Alarms are blaring all throughout Oklahoma City, and in that instant, 168 lives were lost, and over 700 people are injured. Within minutes, local police, EMS, and fire crews are on the scene, most of whom are stunned at the scene they're witnessing, with limbless bodies, blood, body parts, and a blasted open daycare with toys and other items strewn everywhere. They begin pulling survivors from the debris by hand, forming human chains to help pull people out who are buried deep. They start laying those who are deceased in tarps in a parking garage and begin providing medical attention to those who need it. Most of those who were present this day describe the scene as a war zone. So by 10 a.m., the news story breaks nationally. All major news stations are closely covering the event, and most of them share the same early theory, that this is an attack by foreign terrorists. President Bill Clinton states at a noon press conference that day, quote, "The bombing in Oklahoma City was an evil act of terror. It was an attack not just on a federal building, it was an attack on all of us."
Shout out Clinton.
Shout out old Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Monica, too. Was that too far?
Nah, I mean...
She did what she had to do.
I don't think that's true.
Have you seen her?
No.
Like from the 90s?
No.
You'd have said yeah.
Okay, but I'm not the president of the United States.
Dude, he's a human being.
Okay.
Well, he is probably a human being. Anyway. A temporary morgue was built near the blast site, and it's there where DNA was used to identify bodies that were too damaged to be identified by family members or facial scans. And in a few cases, some could only be identified by tattoos or dental records. As quickly as possible, the FBI forensics team was instructed to move in. Among the wreckage, they find a rear vehicle axle with the VIN number still intact. They use that number to track back to a Ryder rental facility in Junction City, Kansas, where the truck was rented under the name Robert Kling,
Nerd.
which was McVeigh's alias that we talked about in part 1. It was related to Star Trek. I never looked into that. I don't know what Robert Kling is.
Klingon, I think it's like the language that they use.
Klingon?
Klingon?
I'm not familiar.
It's either a language or it's like a race of people on Star Trek, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm the nerd. Fuck.
I was going to say, you know more about this than I do. Unfortunately for McVeigh, the Ryder employees remembered the renter of the truck, as well as what he looked like, and a composite sketch was drawn by the FBI. However, unbeknownst to the law enforcement in Oklahoma City at the time, the man who rented this truck and who is responsible for this attack is already in police custody.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a fucking hook right there,
He's
man.
already in jail.
He did great.
Yeah.
Great job. Oh, that's good.
He's already in jail.
But I mean, like, the way that you structured that paragraph, oh my God.
I appreciate that.
That was great.
I worked on that.
Good stuff, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So this is we touched on this. It was the yellow car, missing a license plate. He had all of his evil plans laid out on the dashboard. I'm pretty sure. I think it was your verbatim words from just laid out for everybody to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had a big red arrow attached to the top of the car, pointing directly at it.
That is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. And he hired a sign guy.
Did he?
Yep.
Yeah, they're spinning a sign.
When the explosion happened, yes.
That's absurd.
Yep.
I don't think it's true though.
It was, I think, $8.50 an hour was what I found. I found a receipt for it.
$95.
Yeah.
It's above minimum
So we're
wage.
going to keep going. But yes, the illegally parked yellow, I think it was a Mercury Marquis that had no license plate, and we touched on that in part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Even
you said this may not be an exact quote, but you said this is going to come back to bite him in the ass, and then I said that's what we call a hook in the business.
And then I said, yes, that's what we call a fuck up
Yeah.
in the business.
Yeah.
It ultimately becomes the sole reason that he gets caught.
That's like,
and I'm about to get into that. Like this next paragraph that this next little bit is gonna be how that played out.
we talked about like how diligent he was. He and Terry Nichols and like preparing for this. They wore the gloves to go purchase all these items at the gun shows, etc. All that. It really, like, in my mind, this fuck up that he had with the car, it really seems to me like he wasn't intending on walking away from the truck. Like, the car was there just in case.
Yeah, and at this point, like, I'm not saying he all but turned himself in, but I mean, what's the point of taking the license plate off? I don't understand that. Why not just legally park the getaway car? Leave, like, they're not going to expect just a normal car parked.
Two things. Either he, A, didn't intend on walking away, or B, at that point, the explosion has already happened. He's already made his point. Maybe him getting arrested and, like, the trial process and all that was just adding on to, like, what he wanted to say. He wanted to get his story out. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
I don't know. That's something we'll never know. I mean, I don't know. It seems like he was methodical, almost like surgical to a point up until now, and then just a complete
doesn't make any sense.
Ball drop. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into that. So at 10:17 a.m., so just 75 minutes after the blast, and long before the FBI or local police knew his name, Timothy McVeigh was pulled over on Interstate 35 by State Trooper Charles Hanger for driving without a license plate. During the stop, Hanger discovered McVeigh was carrying a concealed Glock 21 pistol without a permit, which, I didn't include this in the notes, but he willingly admitted, like, he went out of his way to admit he was carrying this pistol. Like, he disclosed to the officer, I just want to let you know I'm carrying a concealed pistol.
You're supposed to do that. Like, if you get pulled over...
But if it's illegally? Like, if you don't want to he does not legally own this weapon.
Well, yeah, that's...
That's automatic. Like, it's almost like he wanted to be arrested. Like, I'm not... It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. But traditionally, like, if you get pulled over, and, like, if I get pulled over, I have, my gun on my console.
Yeah.
I believe I'm obligated to tell the officer I have a gun in the vehicle.
I thought you were only obligated if asked, like if prompted. You have to disclose it. I don't think you have to outright.
You have to. I could be way off on this. I think you have to tell them if you have a weapon in the vehicle. If you have a gun in the vehicle specifically.
I bet you don't in Texas.
Yeah, probably not. What did Texas do?
I'm just saying, dude, it's a lawless country down there.
Okay.
Yeehaw.
God, you better hope we have nobody listening to Texas.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like Texas. Texas is cool. I don't like the Cowboys that much.
Okay.
But
No,
Texas isn't great.
We need to touch on this since we're in this realm.
Okay.
We had 2 downloads in Toronto.
We did.
We had a download in Brent, Great Britain. I don't know how to pronounce it. You know what I mean? Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know what Brent is in. But we had a listener from the UK.
Cool. Thanks, bro.
Got one in Spain, too.
Did we? I wonder who that was.
That's our good buddy Dylan.
Surely it wasn't the person that we wish
our
we could bring on the
number
show.
1 fan.
God, I freaking love him, dude.
Love Dylan so much.
I hope he's listening. You know what? We're going to test him.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this in.
Yep.
If he's listening, he'll hear this and he's going to text us and be like, guys, I heard my shout out. Shout out you, Dylan. Love you, brother.
Love you, Dylan.
See what happens with that. Hanger reports that McVeigh is calm, respectful, and even a bit chatty. Also in the car, there was a large knife, a sealed envelope addressed to his sister containing an anti-government manifesto, a map of Oklahoma City with the Murrah Building circled in pen, some military supplies, and cash. He is then arrested, booked into Noble County Jail for unlawful possession of a firearm, driving without a license plate, and no proof of insurance. While in jail, he does not hide who he is, but he doesn't make waves, and it's even reported that he ate a bologna sandwich and drank a Sprite while in jail. It's worth noting that he was booked under the name of Timothy McVeigh. However, it was a fake ID from the state of Michigan, and his bond is set at $25,000.
See, he's so calm, cool, and collected when he's been arrested. That, to me, kind of seems like the next part of his plan is, okay, there's going to be a trial on this. I'm going to get national media coverage.
You want my?
Let's hear it.
So I was going to say this for the end, but I think we're far enough along into it. I think his plan was get arrested, be in police custody, and then be released without them ever realizing who he was or realizing too late. Can you imagine what a smack in the face that would have been to law enforcement?
Yeah.
If they would have had McVeigh in custody in jail and they let him walk free.
It made him look ridiculous.
I think that was his plan.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense as well.
You get arrested under your real name, but they're looking for a Robert Kling. They assume it's an alias.
Yeah.
But I think that was his plan. I think his plan was to get caught, serve a little bit of time, walk out a free man, and just be on the run for the rest of his life. And make the police look absolutely ridiculous.
This bit of the story is so interesting. Because I really want to know what was going on in his mind. Like post-bombing. You know what I mean? Like the bombing, that's a statement in and of itself. It's brutal. It's appalling. He deserves death, which, spoilers, I think that's what he gets.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret.
Yeah. But like this part right here, like we are immediately after the bombing. What is going on in Timothy McVeigh's head?
Yeah, like what's he
What
thinking?
is his next step? You know he's planned out this far.
Yeah, and I even think he's planned out up until being arrested. I think that's why he had the gun on him. I think that's why he didn't have any insurance. I think that's why he didn't have a license plate.
Throw the license plate on. Like if you're going to go on the interstate, throw a license plate on.
I think because this was you could run plates back then, but it wasn't as sophisticated or quick as it is now.
Yeah.
To identify somebody by their license plate like that.
That is so interesting to me.
It's very bizarre. It's around this time that the FBI releases John Doe sketch number 1 of the suspect for the bombing in Oklahoma City. A local jail employee of Noble County sees the sketch, matches it to McVeigh, who is sitting in a cell there in Perry, Oklahoma, and the officer alerts the FBI of his findings. Immediately, the FBI puts a federal hold on McVeigh, which came in just 90 minutes before McVeigh was scheduled to be released from jail. And that afternoon, Timothy McVeigh is officially named the prime suspect for the bombing.
Damn, that was quick.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah. Timeline.
He fucked around and did Robert Kling as his alias. Like,
Yeah.
that's nobody's name.
No. Like, you got to pick something super generic where whenever they look it up, there's going to be like Joe Smith.
Yeah.
Like something super common. But, yeah. On April 21st, so just 2 days later, McVeigh's name is released to the public. Up until this point, it is assumed that the perpetrators were foreign terrorists. However, once this is revealed, that narrative collapses. This is a white American male and decorated Gulf War veteran who was born and raised right here in the United States. McVeigh becomes the face of a new kind of terrorist in the eyes of the people, someone who is motivated not by religion or a foreign ideology, but by a deep resentment of their own government. So this next part is going to be from April of 1995 until early 96. It's not exactly clear, the month. I couldn't pinpoint it, but it's early 96.
You know, that's likely why most people only know Timothy McVeigh. Like, I know the name Terry Nichols. I don't know really his involvement. There's a third guy. I do know that much.
I'll get into both of them here soon.
But, like, you know Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah. And the crazy part is Terry Nichols is just as guilty and just as involved as McVeigh.
Well, the government wanted this to be over with quick.
Yeah.
Because it's just what you said. We have a white male, white former military male.
A decorated Gulf War veteran.
Oh, we can't have that.
No.
Can't have that. Our terrorists are Middle Eastern. We can't have a white male doing this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why this got ran through so fast.
That's why this is the single deadliest domestic terrorist attack in U.S. history, and it is never talked about. I mean, it's talked about. It's not talked about as much as it should be.
They'd rather have you believe that 9/11 is the only terrorist attack to this scale because it wasn't a white former military male.
Yeah.
That's all it is. This got covered up quickly for that specific reason.
It did, and a lot of the points that were made early on in McVeigh's life, they are true, with government overreach, things like that. Like, you're giving me that look. Like I'm supporting him, I'm not. Fuck him.
You know what's crazy?
What's crazy?
I wasn't giving you that look.
You were giving me that look, dude. You were giving me that look like you were about to say, oh, you worshiping him?
I was not. Hey,
We're
man.
moving on. We need that. I sent you the clip. We need to get a soundboard. I do not worship Timothy McVeigh. McVeigh is transferred from the Noble County Jail to a Supermax federal prison in Colorado, where he refuses to confess early on in questioning, invoking his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. However, during this time, he spoke freely of his distrust of the government. He is reported as being stoic, cold, and unemotional, even after being informed that children were killed in the attack. Whenever he was shown photos of the destruction he created, he showed no remorse, insisting on being viewed simply as a soldier in a political war and not a murderer, saying that he, quote, expected casualties.
There's some type of mental dysfunction here. He's got something going on.
Well, and it's the fact that, and again, like we touched on this in part one, but like there was no major trauma in his childhood.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can count the divorce, I guess, of his parents, but it wasn't a nasty split.
He was artillery in Desert Storm.
Yeah, he was an artillery weapons.
So he wasn't like on the front line. We can't completely rule out PTSD, but he wasn't exactly like clearing blocks.
Well, I don't think had it went from he was totally normal to he joins the military, he comes out like this. That's one thing, but he joined the military with this same ideology. It only it only progressed like as he went on. So I don't think it may have had a lot to do with it, sure, but it definitely wasn't the catalyst.
This is another case study for nature versus nurture,
for sure. Yeah.
Like there are no warning signs for this guy. No, he just seems like a regular dude. Maybe he's racist,
but
he's racist.
But the thing is, he becomes racist like over time.
Well,
he wasn't. Yeah. There's a lot to this that we'll never know.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah,
like is it just he met some dudes with that type of mindset, and he's like, okay, let me fit in with these guys.
Kind of like positive, like affirmation. Yeah. Like I tell you something outlandish, and then you agree with it, and I take it and run with it, type deal. And it just snowballs, like bouncing ideas off each other, stuff like that. Kind of like this podcast. Mm-hmm. You bounce it, you take it far enough, and then the next thing you know, here you are on episode 6.
Yeah. Episode 6, man. We're about to do 7 after this.
I know. I'm excited, man. This is great. All right. While he's being interrogated, the FBI and Oklahoma law enforcement are collecting evidence against McVeigh. They collect his fingerprints and motel records from the Dreamland Motel in Junction City, Kansas, which we also covered in part 1, which connected him to the fake name and the vehicle rental. They also uncover rental records, storage locker contracts, ammonium nitrate purchase receipts, and wiring materials, all with McVeigh's alias attached to them. Eyewitnesses placed McVeigh at the Ryder Truck Rental Center, the Dreamland Motel where the Ryder truck was spotted, and the scene of the blast minutes before it took place. They begin digging into his phone records where he's linked to Terry Nichols and Michael Fortier. Or Fortier. I'm not sure how you say that. It looks French, but...
I think it's Fortier.
Fortier, yeah.
Are you familiar with, like, the UFC?
No.
Dustin Poirier? It's like the
I'm not.
Wait, hold on.
Like IER. Because in
IER.
French, I believe, in the French language, IER is, like, is pronounced like as an A, if you will.
I think it's Fortier.
Going forward, I heard it pronounced Fortier and Fortier on like shows that I watched. So that's true. We are talking about Oklahoma. I mean, we're not much better.
Well, yeah.
Anyway,
we're cultured though.
Yeah.
Here in Tennessee.
Yeah. So I'll restart that sentence. They begin digging into his phone records where he's linked to Terry Nichols and Michael Fortier, implementing them in the planning and execution phases of the attack. They also find evidence of explosive components, anti-government documents and manifestos, maps and checklists with McVeigh's handwriting on them in Nichols' home and storage unit. And then more on his accomplices shortly. Like I said earlier, McVeigh was pretty quiet early on, not admitting to much or giving much detail. However, as the weeks progressed, he began to give in to the interrogation, saying, quote, "I bombed the Murrah Building because the government is killing innocent people, just like it did at Waco and Ruby Ridge." And that's end quote there. And he described the bombing as a preemptive strike, comparing it to American military actions in other countries.
The delusion on this guy.
Yeah. Like, he's comparing killing innocent Americans as an American with the U.S., I'm assuming, killing, like, foreign soldiers/civilians.
Well,
and he makes a good point. Like, yeah, but that doesn't mean you bomb your own people.
It's not even that for me. Like, he quotes Waco and Ruby Ridge. Ruby Ridge, sure. Like, I mean...
Waco, no.
He may have been a tad bit racist. Doesn't give you the right to, like, go in there and shoot his wife and then do that whole thing. Yeah. Waco, what are you laughing at?
He may have been a tad bit racist.
I mean, that's up for debate. Like, I mean,
he was racist. No.
No, confirmed. I thought it was.
Are you talking about McVeigh or are you talking about the Ruby Ridge people?
The Ruby Ridge guy. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think he was one of those that, like, he was into, like, the gun collecting and he got looped into the crowd.
Seems to go hand in hand, yeah.
I don't think he was actually, or I could be wrong. He could be full out racist and got away with it. Yeah. But fact of the matter is, he's equating, like, the Waco and Ruby Ridge murders. Well, we'll call those murders.
That's what they were.
Yeah. To him blowing up a building with children inside of it. Yeah. Like that.
You're talking about premeditated mass murder of a building full of innocent people.
That is mental illness.
Yeah. I think it's something beyond mental illness. I think it's like almost a disconnect from the fact that you're also a human being. Like, I don't think he sees himself as a walking, breathing human like the rest of the people are.
It's almost like he has, like, narcissistic tendencies as well. Cause
oh yeah, for sure.
What gives you the right? What makes you think you're the person?
Yeah, I mean,
to write these scales.
Yeah, you're playing God at this point.
Fuck this guy.
Yeah,
fuck him.
Yeah. So now I'll get into McVeigh's closest accomplice, Terry Nichols. I'm not going to get into him too much because there's a lot of information on both. I'm just going to give out what I think is the most pertinent information to the story. The two met in the military, which, again, we briefly discussed in part 1, but they both realized they shared the same beliefs early on in their friendship. They both were anti-government, deeply influenced by Ruby Ridge and Waco, and they were both obsessed with survivalism and conspiracies that the government was out to kill its own citizens. Nichols let McVeigh live with him throughout the planning of this attack, and he assisted him in purchasing the ammonium nitrate, the other bomb components. He helped mix and store the materials. He paid for some of the storage units. He helped assemble the bombs in the moving truck. He helped plan the attack, the escape route, and he helped McVeigh plan out, like, where he was going to be after the fact. So he was very, very, very much just as involved as McVeigh. Yeah. The only difference was McVeigh was driving the truck. That's the only difference in these two. McVeigh was the one who drove the truck and parked it.
Seems like Nichols was probably the smarter of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, they both
Great idea. What if you drove the truck and I was over here not doing anything?
So that is actually, and we'll get into it briefly. I'll touch on it, and like at the end, that's part of McVeigh's defense from his attorneys.
Really?
Yeah.
So he flip-flops here. He goes from this stoic, I did this because
no. This is from his attorneys. McVeigh is pretty much non-existent through the trial. He doesn't say much. This is from his. His attorneys are like, shut the fuck up, man. Yeah, like they're like, dude, like that's enough.
Stop talking.
Yeah. All right.
What a dumbass.
Yeah. So on the day of the explosion,
I'm sorry, I'd hate to be those defense attorneys.
Yeah, I hope that didn't like tank their career, because more than likely they were public defenders and they were assigned the case.
That's a constitutional right. No matter the crime, you have a constitutional right.
And in some states, I don't know about the state of Oklahoma, or I think the trial was in Colorado, but anyway, I don't know state by state if public defenders can like pass on cases.
Constitutional law. I don't think they can.
I think you're right, because I mean, a public defender works for the state. Like you don't get paid. Like you don't take pro bono. You don't none of that stuff. You just work the cases you're assigned.
And I mean,
you're paid a base salary. You're paid.
Trying to make a name for yourself at that point.
Yeah, and you're not paid based on success or not. Like you're paid whatever. Yeah. On the day of the explosion, Nichols was establishing his alibi, doing things like grocery shopping, picking up parts at the store, and doing other mundane tasks to make himself look as innocent as possible. There's also a third member of this group, however, not as involved as the other two, is a man named Michael Fortier. He knew the plan, helped scout out the Murrah Federal Building months prior, and agreed to store the guns that McVeigh and Nichols stole to raise funds to finance the attack. He kept quiet for the entirety of the planning period, evidently even joking with his wife what would happen if McVeigh actually went through with this ludicrous plan. After the attack, Fortier did not alert authorities to his knowledge of McVeigh's plans, and even denied knowing anything about it when he was initially questioned by the FBI. However, investigators eventually linked him to McVeigh through phone logs and physical meetings, where he admitted guilt and cut a deal to testify against the other two in exchange for a lighter sentence. He pled guilty to misprision of a felon, which is essentially just failure to report a crime, making false statements to a federal agent, and transporting stolen weapons. He was sentenced to 12 years in a federal prison and fined $200,000, and was released in 2006 for good behavior after serving 10 years of his 12-year prison sentence. After he was released, he was placed into the Federal Witness Protection Program, where his current identity and whereabouts are unknown.
Fuck that.
Yeah. I this is the part that I think, like when I was typing this out, it just made me like grit my teeth.
That's so infuriating.
Yeah. He helped plan this.
He knew,
and I think it's kind of underdone a little bit, because like he was involved. Obviously, he was not as involved as the other two, but this man was involved. He helped plan it out. He made trips back and forth from Oklahoma City to wherever the hell they were living. I forget, but yeah.
It almost seems like they had to go easy on this guy so they could get Nichols and McVeigh.
They had to give, because Fortier flipped quick.
That is so, oh my God.
Yeah, he flipped quick. They offered him, because they told him, like, more than likely McVeigh and Nichols are going to get the death penalty. If not, it is life in prison without the possibility of parole, more than likely going to be solitary confinement forever. You will face that same fate unless you start talking. And he started talking. And now he's old now, but he's living.
But here's the thing, like, those two were going to die anyways. Like, why even threaten him with that? Like, Nichols and McVeigh are going to die for this.
Nichols didn't die for this.
Huh?
He didn't die for this.
No.
We'll get into their sentencing here soon.
I think all three should have been given the death penalty.
I think all three should have been absolutely given the death penalty, which I personally don't agree with the death penalty.
No, but in this case,
I think you should be locked up forever and just made to be driven.
In this case, death.
Yeah, because I don't even want my tax dollars going to you.
No, of course not. No.
Because that's where, I mean, someone goes to prison, your tax dollars are paying for their food and their everything.
They were all three complicit in the planning.
Yeah.
Though Nichols and Fortier were not physically behind the wheel of that truck, they had the power to keep this from happening, and they chose not to act.
Yeah, and Fortier played the whole, like, oh, I just thought this was one big joke thing.
You don't joke about that.
It worked. It worked.
That is ridiculous.
It worked.
That is so infuriating.
He's assumed to be living his life freely wherever he is.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
You know what we should do?
I don't think we should admit that.
I think we should cut that out. You're right.
I'm going to cut that out, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to make a note there.
In any case, fuck Michael Fortier.
As for Terry Nichols, he was tried on 2 separate occasions. First, in 1997, where he was convicted of conspiracy to commit mass murder and 8 counts of involuntary manslaughter for the deaths of 8 federal agents in the building that day, receiving life without the possibility of parole. In 2004, the state of Oklahoma prosecuted him for the murders of the remaining 161 victims. Ultimately, he received 161 consecutive life sentences on top of his current charges without the possibility of parole. However, the death penalty was rejected by the jury. He is currently serving his sentence and will spend the rest of his life at ADX Florence, which is the nation's highest security supermax federal prison. It's where the Unabomber is currently being held. It's where the people behind 9/11 are currently being held. And he'll spend the rest of his life there. Pretty much in solitary confinement forever.
What's with the federal agents getting involuntary manslaughter? What's up with that?
Are
they arguing that's like they were in the line of duty?
No. So there was an ATF office in the Murrah building the day of the explosion, and 8 federal agents were killed in the explosion.
But why are they singled out with the charges, and why are they not linked in with the 161 life sentences for all the other?
It's a great question.
That's bizarre.
He wasn't initially charged with the murder of the other 161. He was only charged for the manslaughter death of those 8 federal agents.
But I wonder why. Why was that manslaughter, not murder?
Because he wasn't the one that.
But you charged him for 161 counts of murder, essentially.
7 years later, I guess.
That's so bizarre. Am I overthinking this?
No, you're absolutely right. I had the same thoughts, and truthfully, I didn't look into it enough to know why he wasn't initially charged for just 168 counts of murder, like premeditated mass murder, but he wasn't. That's
a good episode on the ADX Florence, like a small talk episode,
dude,
just place. Who's in there.
Crazy place.
We could do that.
I'd be down to do
I'm
that.
gonna add it to the list.
As for McVeigh, he was tried in a federal court in Denver, Colorado in March of 1997. He was facing charges of conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction, use of a weapon of mass destruction resulting in death, destruction by explosives of a federal building, and use of explosives resulting in death, and 8 counts of first-degree murder of a federal law enforcement personnel. The prosecution obviously had a slam-dunk case against McVeigh. They had a confession, detailed timeline of events, fingerprints, and then McVeigh's intricate knowledge of specifics, eyewitness testimony, and then admittedly too many more things to list as to why this is a slam-dunk case.
That's still... You single out 8 counts of murder on just the federal agents.
And I think the reason is because the penalty for that is so much greater than the penalty for
just a regular person.
Yeah, look up.
That's infuriating too.
But look up the penalty, because it's capital punishment. Yeah. The murder of any federal employee or personnel is capital punishment, no matter what.
I'm not shitting on federal agents. Shout out FBI, CIA, all those guys. Shout out federal agents. But why the need to make the distinction?
I don't know. I guess to just carry out a greater sentence.
Okay.
I'm not sure. That would be my only guess.
That's fair. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
The defense argued that McVeigh was scapegoated by his co-conspirators, and they challenged the integrity of the evidence. They implied that others were involved in the attack, although this was never pursued further, and they also claimed that if proven, McVeigh's actions didn't warrant the death penalty due to his state of mind. They tried to claim insanity, which McVeigh personally shot this theory down in court.
That's got to be a hell of a spot for those public defenders.
You don't really have a choice. The person you're defending who just murdered 168 people is claiming that he's not insane and that he wants the death penalty. There's nothing you can do.
You are legally obligated to fight for this man, and he is doing everything in his power to make this as hard on you as he possibly can.
It's rough. So fast forward to the deliberation period by the jury, which lasted 23 hours over the course of 4 days, where a verdict of guilty was found on all 11 charges he was currently facing. On June 13th, 1997, the jury recommended the death penalty via lethal injection, where Judge Richard Mash agreed without hesitation. Upon hearing this verdict, McVeigh did not react. He gave no apology and appeared unremorseful altogether. From 1997 to 2001, McVeigh filed a few automatic appeals to try and secure a stay of execution, which were submitted by his lawyers, but halted all further requests in early 2001, even requesting to be executed at one point. So to make that a little clearer, whenever I say McVeigh filed a few automatic appeals, I probably could have worded that a little better. McVeigh did not file appeals. McVeigh's lawyers filed appeals on his behalf to try and get a stay of execution.
Again, probably obligated to do so.
Right. I mean, it looks horrible for a lawyer if you defended him and then he ends up getting the death penalty. Like, even though this is, there's no winning this case, it still looks really bad.
Yeah.
McVeigh was content with living out his days in prison until his execution, and at 7:14 a.m. on June 11th, 2001, Timothy McVeigh was executed via lethal injection. Those who came to witness were several family members, journalists, members of law enforcement, and his attorneys. His final meal was two pints of mint chocolate ice cream, which he ate alone in his cell the night before, and he declined to give a final statement, instead releasing the poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley, as his final written words stating, quote, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul." McVeigh's execution was the first federal execution since 1963, and only one of two since 2001. And that is the story of Timothy McVeigh.
Rest in piss.
Rest in dog shit.
Fuck this guy. 2 pints of mint chocolate ice cream?
2 pints of mint chocolate ice cream that he ate by himself in a solitary confinement cell by himself.
Should have added on another life sentence for the mint chocolate chip.
So, you know what I think would be funny as hell? He says, I want 2 pints of mint chocolate ice cream as my final meal. And wardens bring him 2 pints of what appears to be mint chocolate ice cream.
Fuck this. He should have been fed.
But he opens it up. And it's dog shit.
You know what?
Boom.
Should have been like...
Or it's a bomb. Ooh.
Well, okay, hold on. We're...
Sorry.
Hold on. Sorry. Wait a minute. Okay. I mean... I don't really know what to say. That's just that sucks all the way around.
My next comment was going to be there's not much to say, but there's also like a lot to say about this one, because there's so much that you want to say, but that you just can't really find the words for. Like early on, you read, especially if you don't know about how this ends. Like if you go into it completely blind and you're listening to some of the stuff McVeigh is saying, and you're like, yeah, this makes total sense, and then you keep reading. And you're like, oh, God, he started robbing people at gun shows. And, he started buying racist books written by Nazis. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, shit. You start going down the line. You just slowly realize that this guy was out of his fucking mind.
Yeah. It's fun to riff and, like, shit on McVeigh and all these anecdotes, all that fun stuff. But in the end, like, you can't joke about it because 168 people died.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just because it was mental illness. Like, that's all it is to it. There was something wrong in this man's head. Yeah. And he met people, like-minded individuals, who encouraged him.
And that scares me, too, because, like, what are the odds that 2 people that have that mindset and that are willing to take it that far, like, meet each other? If the odds are that good, then... Yeah. That really terrifies me.
There were more people than just the 3 that we know about that knew this was going to happen.
I mean, the lawyers even suggested that there was more people involved, but, they were just focused on the 2 big guys, and then Fortier was feeding them information.
I don't give that a lot of weight, because they were doing everything they could to not get the death penalty for McVeigh.
Yeah, from the vibe that I get from, everything, like Reddit posts, wikis, documentaries, YouTube shorts, like the whole thing, not YouTube shorts, YouTube videos. But the lawyers were like dead set on just not getting the death penalty.
Like it's a career killer as a public defender. Like if
your client gets it's more of a career killer for a lawyer that is working like in a private sector. Not so much for a public defender, because there's not an attorney on planet Earth that could have stopped McVeigh from being executed. There's not one. Mm. You could have had any lawyer. You could have had a team of 1 million lawyers. Not one of them could have gotten him off death row. And he was executed quick.
Good.
He was sentenced to die in 1997, and he was dead in 2001. 4 years.
I think lethal injection should have been the route here. Like,
I don't either.
Come up with something different for this guy.
I think there needs to be, and this is going to get pretty inhumane, I think there needs to be some form of suffering for people like this.
I told you a while back about in Alabama, so there was a guy he was on death row, he was scheduled for lethal injection. The state fucked up the lethal injection, and the guy lived. So they came up with a new form of, I guess, a new way to kill somebody on death row. He essentially got, like, suffocated. They put him in a container Christ. And, like, pumped in CO2.
Oh, so they suffocated. Pretty much, I think, yeah, so he would have just passed out and just died.
Stopped breathing.
That's oh my God, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
There's probably still not much suffering there either, though. There's probably just kind of like how whenever you're, like, anesthesia type thing, you're just laying there and you just kind of start drifting off.
Yeah.
Like whenever you start your car and shut the garage doors.
I don't think there's a right answer.
There's
like,
not.
Obviously, in most cases, the death penalty may be a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
But you have cases like Timothy McVeigh where, sure, I think most people would be on board with the death penalty for a person like Timothy McVeigh.
And I said earlier, I'm very anti-death penalty. I don't like it. I think anybody that commits a crime that warrants them be put to death, I think it'd be much more impactful if we just put them in like a 4x4 concrete block and then just once a day fed them just enough to keep them alive. Mm-hmm. Just like suffering for as long as possible.
I think you get into the realm of cruel and unusual punishment at that point. There's no quality of life for that.
He blew up 168 people.
Sure, I'm not arguing you.
You're probably right. There probably is some law against that with the whole. I mean, that's probably against like the Geneva Convention. That's probably some tough shit. Yeah. But anyway, there we go. Yeah. That's Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City.
That's the story. Hope you enjoyed. Stick around. You were gonna mention some upcoming episodes we're thinking about. Long Island serial killer, right?
Of course. So the next Sunday episode is going to be the Halifax disaster. Very excited for that. Ben has no idea what that is, so this is going to be brand new ground for him. We are going to introduce a little segment called Small Talk. It's going to air on Wednesdays. It's going to be, not short stories. We are looking to stay under 30 minutes on these. But it's just, we're going to get into cryptids. We're going to get into ghost stories. Fun stuff like that.
Something quick and fun, because I've noticed a trend in our Sunday episodes. Yeah. They're pretty dark.
Yeah.
We went from from Waco to Fred and Rose West to Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
So that was three pretty. We need to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But like you don't want to shorten the Sunday episodes because those stories. If we're going to tell the stories, we need to do it right.
Yeah, no, for sure. Don't want to shorten the Sundays episodes for sure. So we'll throw in a little something on the Wednesdays.
Yeah, something
fun.
So
coming out this Wednesday, right?
Coming out this Wednesday, we are actually about to record the Falkville Monster. That's going to air on Wednesday.
This upcoming Wednesday.
Yes, of next week. You'll still get OKC Part 2 on Sunday. That's going to be out. We are going to do the Falkville Monster.
Yeah, when you're hearing this, the Falkville Monster will be coming out 3 days later.
So OKC is going to be out Wednesday. You'll be hearing this segment
Sunday.
Yes, Sunday. And then 3 days later, you're going to get the Falkville Monster. We got Halifax coming up. We have Lisk, the Long Island serial killer, in the works. I really want to do that right because it's very, there's a lot to it. And again, if we're going to tell the story, we want to put in the work and do it right and not just slap something together. So that's going to take some time, but that is coming.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Excited for Halifax. That's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Pumped up.
It also sucks. Don't get me wrong. Halifax sucks. But I really like sitting here telling a story to my bud and having him respond.
And he has a buzz cut.
I got a buzz
cut. Now when I look at him, I can just look at his buzz cut and just really admire it. And it feels funny. I've never felt anything that feels like that.
Yeah. I kept a buzz cut as a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
I had long hair as a kid.
I always had a buzz cut.
I've never had a buzz cut. My hair's never been... This is about as short as my hair has ever been.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I never go super short.
See, I was sitting there in the chair, and then she hit me with a 2-guard, and she let it sit there. She was like, do you want to go ahead and like fade up the sides, and then we'll take a look? I was like, yeah, let's do that. I don't want to go too short and then regret it. She faded me up. I was like, you want to know what?
Knock my shit off. Really? Just like that?
Go one. Let's do a 1-guard on it.
One across the whole piece?
One.
Wow.
Everywhere.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we got. Let's get the socials plugged in.
For sure. That we're everywhere. We're on TikTok, Instagram. We're on YouTube. Come find us. We're at Tinfoil Talk. Find us wherever.
TikTok at Tinfoil Weekly. Tinfoil Talk
Tinfoil
Weekly.
Yes.
Yeah, Tinfoil Weekly. Yeah.
Apologize. We'll try to get that straightened out. I don't know that we'll be able to get Tinfoil Talk. We may be stuck with Tinfoil Talk Weekly.
Yeah, there's already a Tinfoil Talk on there, and they do similar stuff, but it's more alien involved.
Okay.
And there's no podcast over it or anything. It's just a TikTok page.
I get it. Okay. It's a cool name. Anyways, find us on TikTok, Tinfoil Talk Weekly, YouTube, Instagram. You can find us wherever you get your podcast.
Yep.
We're all over the place. Comment. Tell us what you want to hear. Again, we said this on the last episode. Whatever you want to hear, if you just put a comment in there and tell us you want to hear it, that's going to go straight to the top of the list. We will cover it.
We will cover it more than likely the next week. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
See ya.
Love you. Bye.